What is going on, college basketball fans? Today we have the updated Dannyology Power 35 rankings, and this one may be the most changes we've had out of any week to week rankings video all season long. So many ranked teams losing. 8 of the top 10 teams lost this week, and I'm excited to get into these rankings, let you know all the changes I made. And yeah, guys, subscribe if you guys are new. We do a ton of college basketball content here on the channel. And let's go. All right, so as you can see here, we have our rankings, and we have how much each team moved back. And this one for 21 through 30, it's on the left side. It just wouldn't fit with the teams to watch. I'm sure you guys can figure that out. All things good. But one thing I did want to mention, the only team that did not go up or down in these entire rankings is FAU. FAU stayed still, which is the only one that just has a minus. Like, they stayed the same as last week. Everybody else either moved up, down, or was not ranked last week, which is what NR stands for. So let's get into it. We have a brand new number one team. I debated maybe keeping Purdue as the number one team, but the more and more I thought about it, like, UConn's been taking care of business for the most part, especially this week, in a week where nobody has. And the Big East is a very tough conference. In my opinion, a tougher conference than the Big Ten. There's no reason Purdue should already have 2 conference losses to Northwestern and to Nebraska. Yes, both on the road. Yes, both pretty decent teams that will be in March Madness, in my opinion. But still, I think UConn deserves that at this point. They're jumping up 3 spots from number 4 and the brand new number 1 this weekend, the Dannyology poll. Number 2, we do have the Purdue Boilermakers dropping 1 spot after losing to Nebraska on the road. And yeah, they did get another win this week, though, after that. I still believe they are one of the best teams in the country. Zach Edey, of course, winning player of the year in college basketball. Their guards have been improving. I think they're a much better team than last year's team, who was a number 1 seed, did lose to a 16 seed, but was still a number 1 seed, was still a very good team last year. Improved upon that. I still think they are a top team in the country. North Carolina moving up 5 spots from 8 to 3 this week. Looking very, very good. Undefeated in ACC play. Destroying teams, man. Destroying teams. Whoever they are playing, they are beating them up. Doesn't matter if they're road, home. Doesn't matter. Really tearing up in the ACC. I love to see it. I cannot wait to see them go up against some of these other ACC teams, especially North Carolina, Duke. It's going to be very, very good this year. I'm hyped for it. Number 4, moving down 1 spot, we do have the Kansas Jayhawks, and they did take a road loss to Central Florida. Not a very good loss. I don't think Central Florida is going to be a tournament team. Definitely a bottom tier team in the Big 12. They're not terrible, but definitely a game that Kansas should not have lost. And we kind of could have expected this because Kansas did lose, or almost lose, at home to TCU. And usually when a team like almost loses, especially at home, they're on the brink of losing, and then they can bounce back from that. And they did. They bounced back with another top 25 win over Oklahoma after losing to Central Florida. So only bumping down 1 spot. Definitely believes they are still a top tier team in college basketball. They did beat UConn earlier in the year. That is something to note. But I do think that UConn might still be the better team because that game was in Allen Fieldhouse. I think if UConn was home, UConn definitely would have won. If it was a neutral site, I would lean UConn. I would lean UConn to win that neutral court 100%. I think UConn is the better team overall than Kansas. Number 5, we do have Auburn, one of our biggest risers this week, jumping all the way into the top 10, all the way into the top 5 here at number 5. Was at number 16 last week. They are playing very, very, very good. They are now my top ranked SEC team. They're undefeated in SEC play. Again, another team like North Carolina is just like beating teams up in conference play. And the SEC, that's not an easy league to play in, especially on the road. They're getting good road wins, beating teams up. I like this Auburn team a lot. Aiden Holloway. I like their forwards, man. Janai Broom. Williams looks very good as well. Very athletic guy. Their forward duo is very nice. KD Johnson, definitely another energy guy, a good guard. I like this Auburn team a lot. They're all the way up here at number 5 for me this week. Let's see if they can keep it up. Number 6, we do have Baylor, a team that did beat Auburn, but that was in Baylor. It's a very close game. Again, if that game was in the jungle in Auburn, I think Auburn would have won. So for them to lose in Waco, I'm fine with still putting Auburn above Baylor. But Baylor is another team undefeated in Big 12 conference play. They haven't played really the top tier teams in the Big 12 yet, but they'll get there. I think they have Kansas State on the road this week. That's going to be fun. Jerome Tang, longtime assistant of Scott Drew, doing great things there with the Wildcats. Is going to be in the Little Apple It's going to be in the Little Apple in Manhattan, Kansas, and I think Kansas State might upset Baylor this week. I think that will probably happen, but this isn't a prediction video. Let's get back on track. Number 7, we do have Memphis jumping up 2 spots here from 9 to 7. They've been playing in some very close games, but they have been winning in their league. And until today, as I'm recording this Sunday night, earlier today, they did get a big win over Wichita State on the road. Looked a lot better in that game than they had the past games before that. Definitely that Wichita State win helping them jump up 2 spots. If not, they probably would have stayed at 9 or, somewhere around there. But definitely that Wichita State win, they looked a lot better. And they have been winning. They're one of the teams that did not lose from the top 25 this past week. Number 8, we do have Tennessee dropping 3 spots after losing on the road to Mississippi State. Mississippi State's a good team. And on the road, so I don't want to fault them too much for that. And they also recently just got a big win over Ole Miss where they just slapped them around. So I don't think they need to fall too far, but I feel like 5 to 8, that's a good spot for them right now, especially considering they did beat Wisconsin earlier in the year. So I had trouble maybe putting Wisconsin over Tennessee for those reasons. But Wisconsin's another team killing it in league play. If they can keep it up, I will pet them over Tennessee because they are playing fantastic right now. A big fan of these forwards on Wisconsin. They're playing outstanding. AJ Storr has been very good, a very good transfer for Wisconsin as well. And the Badgers, look out for him, man. They are playing awesome. Number 10, we do have Duke jumping up 3 spots here. You could argue maybe Duke should be a bit higher, but I feel like this is a fine spot for them right here. They did beat Baylor earlier in the season, but then again, a team like Arizona did beat Duke. So I do factor in head-to-heads, but sometimes some teams just beat another team and then they're playing better than them, even though they lost to them. So I'm going to go off the eye test, how they're playing right now over head-to-heads that were like earlier in the season especially. And I feel like Duke, this is a good spot for him right now. If you wanted to argue maybe Duke should be higher, Baylor a little bit lower, I can definitely get behind that for sure. Honestly, there's a lot of parity in college basketball right now. And I think a couple of people commented that on my last video, and it's true. There are a lot of teams that I can see going far in March this year. That's the way I like it, man. So a lot of these things are close. If you wanted to say Duke should be higher, and Baylor should be a little bit lower, those are the only two in my top 10 where I'm like, okay, yeah, I can probably get behind that for sure. Number 11, we do have Kentucky dropping 5 spots. Really not a terrible loss. Texas A&M, they've been struggling. But they are a good team, and for Kentucky to lose to them on the road in overtime, I don't feel as though that's a horrible loss, but it is going to drop them out of the top 10 here and put them at 11. Number 12, we do have Arizona, and it just feels like, Arizona, they beat any good team they play. They lose to any bad team they play. Not any bad team they play, but it feels like every week Arizona is losing to a team they shouldn't have. Washington State is not a bad team. I will necessarily a bad team. Like I could understand losing that one, but still the Stanford loss definitely hurts them as well. Other than that, you have Purdue, FAU. Honestly, I feel like the only game they really should have lost is to Purdue. Like, I don't feel like they should have lost to FAU, even though I do think FAU is a better team than what they are playing at right now. Um, but yeah, Arizona, they're going to fall after that loss to Washington State a little bit, 5 spots here to number 12. Number 13, one of our biggest fallers of the week, we do have Houston. And Houston dropping 11 spots after losing back-to-back games here in conference play in the Big 12 to Iowa State on the road and to TCU on the road as well. And two very good teams, 100%. Like, I don't think Houston is a bad team, but it's hard to not make them fall definitely out of the top 10 whenever they don't really have that many great wins under their belt at this point in the season. They're going to have plenty of opportunities to get some better wins and get back into the top 10 with the Big 12 schedule that they have. But for now, they're going to fall 11 spots here to number 13. A Big 12 team that is jumping up, though, Texas Tech, jumping up 6 spots for me from number 20 to number 14. Still undefeated in the Big 12 again this week. Playing absolutely fantastic. I'm a big fan of Joe Toussaint as a WVU fan. I still support him here on Texas Tech. Him and Pop Isaacs, a very fun guard duo to watch. Utah State jumping up 8 spots. Another great week for them. They survived UNLV barely. I think they got a 5-point play at the end of the game there to give them the win. They were down by 4, and in the final seconds, a 5-point play. Definitely go check it out if you haven't seen it. Just absolutely insane. But that's college basketball, man. Yeah, I love it. Number 16, we do have Dayton jumping up 5 spots. They are playing awesome basketball right now. It would surprise me greatly if they did not come out of their league this year to be in March Madness. Dayton needs to be in March Madness. Ever since they had that top tier team with Obi Toppin in 2020 and March Madness got canceled, I feels like, Dayton has never really had their chance. Well, this year they have a very good team with Holmes and company. Like, they have a solid team. I need to see them in March Madness. I need to see them make a run that we all know they deserve. But they're up 5 spots from 21 to number 16. Number 17, dropping 7 spots, we do have Marquette, and man, they have been struggling in Big East play. Also, shout out to Sean Jones, tore his ACL. I thought he was going to play a big role in Marquette's run this year because he is a speedy guy. He's only a sophomore. He's definitely going to probably take over the starting point guard position once Tyler Kolek leaves for Marquette and be the guy there. He's an outstanding player. He's going to play a big role in this team, but it sucks he tore his ACL. But Marquette, yeah, they're losing, man. And I think they got Villanova coming up here tomorrow on Monday. That's going to be a absolutely huge game. Both of these teams here in the Big East, Marquette and Villanova, need a big-time win. So they're going to be playing extra hard. It's going to be a fantastic game. But yeah, another Big East team right behind them. We do have Creighton. Creighton is playing better than Marquette right now. Marquette does have the head-to-head over them, though, so that is kind of keeping them ahead right now. But if Creighton continues to get on this win streak, especially in the Big East, which has been a fantastic league this year, I think Creighton is probably going to pass them no matter what. Probably, if Creighton can stay undefeated or have an undefeated week, 2-0 this week, I feel like they are going to jump up even more in my rankings, jumping up 8 spots to 18 this week. Dropping 7 spots, we do have Oklahoma. They're one of the teams that did lose twice this week, and it's tough, man. Going on the road to Kansas, just playing a very tough Big 12 schedule, but I still think Oklahoma is a great team. It's just going to be a gauntlet in the Big 12. They're going to have to find some wins. I think they will. I think they're going to stay towards the top of the Big 12, and they're going to definitely be in March Madness this year. I think this going to be the first Porter Moser Oklahoma team in March Madness that makes the March Madness tournament. I don't think since Porter Moser has been the head coach of Oklahoma that they have made the tourney. Maybe his first year there, but I really don't think so. I don't think they made it yet. So this is going to be the year. They have a very good squad. I really like McCollum there as a guard. They have an excellent squad. Sooners will be in the tourney. Number 20, we do have Illinois dropping 8 spots. I still think they are a pretty good team, even without Terrence Shannon Jr. It really sucks what's happening there because they were looking so good. Like, they were in my top 10 just 2 weeks ago. They dropped to number 12, and now they're dropping down to number 20 here, 8 spots. Still have a solid squad. I'm a big Coleman Hawkins fan. It just sucks that Terrence Shannon Jr., all that went down, man. But yeah, number 20, we got Illinois. Number 21, we do have Seton Hall. They have been skyrocketing up the rankings for me after they had a pretty good week last week. Put them at 35, and they keep winning now, man. They got a lot of momentum. Shaheen Holloway is doing a great job there with the Pirates, playing great in Big East play. And yeah, they're jumping up 14 spots from 35 to 21 now. Like I said, that's the best way to jump up in my power rankings, especially when league play starts, is get on a big-time win streak. And that same with Seton Hall is the same as it is with Auburn, Baylor, Wisconsin, all these teams that are playing great in league play. Utah State playing great in Mountain West, a very good league. Creighton's starting to play very good in Big East play. But yeah, Seton Hall at 21 spots, and if they keep winning, they're going to keep climbing. Number 22, we do have TCU. They actually weren't ranked for me this week. They were ranked a couple of weeks ago, like 2 or 3 weeks ago for me. You know, they've been in and out of my rankings. A couple of non-con losses for them, but they've been playing great in conference play. Almost got a road upset over Kansas. If it wasn't, questionable calls, as they do tend to happen in Allen Fieldhouse, costed them the game. Maybe they blew it at the game. I mean, you can't elbow somebody in the face. It might have been unintentional, but yeah. 22, either way, TCU, they got back-to-back good wins this week, even after the Kansas loss in Allen Fieldhouse, which I don't really take too much out of that one. I mean, they were 1 point away from winning in Allen Fieldhouse. How many times does that happen where a team can actually go in there and win? It doesn't happen very often, so I don't take that away from TCU too much, especially because they bounced back from that and got 2 really good wins, including a win over number 2 Houston last week. So very good. TCU is looking awesome. Emmanuel Miller, very improved from last year. Looks fantastic. He took the step that he definitely needed to for this team to be pretty good. And yeah, they're here at number 22. Number 23, we do have BYU dropping 4 spots after losing to Baylor. I still believe they're a good team. They haven't been playing that great in league play, though, so far. So they're going to have to pick it up in Big 12 conference play. Losing Cincinnati at home was not great. I don't take a Baylor loss on the road away from them too much, but it was the Cincy loss at home that really hurt them. Let's see if they can bounce back and have a pretty good week. If not, they'll be falling out of the top 25 at least for sure. Number 24, we do have Grand Canyon. They just are absolutely on a tear right now, looking great. How about them Lopes? They're up 5 spots here. Number 25, we do have San Diego State taking a loss to New Mexico. Very tough place to play in the pit, but I don't really take too much away from them for that game. Again, it's a hard place to play there in the pit. One of the hardest places to play. But I did have to drop them down here to 25. I feel like, 11 spots, maybe too much for that loss. But BYU and Grand Canyon did beat them this year as well. So I feel like dropping behind those 2 teams was the right spot for them right now. Number 26, we do have Iowa State. They were in my rankings a couple weeks ago. They were out of them last week. Now they're back in them because they got a couple of really good wins this week. One of the more underrated venues in college basketball, Hilton Coliseum, just absolutely electric. And they have a very solid team there. I really, really do. Taman Lipsey, very solid point guard, huge fan of him, and well-coached basketball team. Iowa State back in the Dannyology poll here at 26. Number 27, our only team that has stayed stagnant from last week to this week, and a crazy week of college basketball. We do have FAU, and the only reason they didn't move, even though they won their games, is because, they didn't necessarily look that great. So, they looked pretty good against UAB, but the game before that, they just didn't look great. They barely got by Tulane, and I just don't believe they looked that great in that game. But so many teams lost. I don't feel like they should have moved down from it, especially because they looked pretty good against UAB. I'm gonna keep them here at 27 for this week. Let's see how they do next week. Next up, we do have Ole Miss dropping 10 spots from last week. They got blown out by Tennessee. I just don't think that they are. I think they're going to be a pretty good team and a sneaky team. But I feel like when they go up against those top tier teams like a Tennessee, like if they play a top 10, top 15 team, I just don't know if they're going to win. I know they beat Memphis this year, but I don't think Memphis played their best in that game. I just don't know. I think Ole Miss is a solid team. They're very well coached by Chris Beard, but yeah, they're here at 28. I feel like this is the right spot for them right now. Number 29, we do have Colorado State, another very solid team out of the Mountain West. The Mountain West is insane this year. We got Utah State, San Diego State, Colorado State, New Mexico later on, and we got some teams in the Mountain West to watch as well, teams that are just on the cusp of joining. So, yeah, Mountain West very, very strong once again this year. I love me some late night Mountain West basketball. But yeah, Colorado State, a couple losses in the Mountain West so far. They got another one this week, and they're going to have to drop a little bit for me. They were really high for me at one point, I think top 15. They're going to drop down here at 29. Let's see if they can bounce back from it. Number 30, we do have St. John's, and this starts a row of 4 teams for me that didn't even necessarily win both their games this week, that weren't ranked last week, but just teams I feel like should be in the top 35 at this point. St. John's, they barely lost by 1 or 2 points on the road in Omaha at Creighton, but other than that, they've been playing fantastic basketball this week and last week in Big East play. St. John's, I don't think there's 35 teams better than the St. John's team this year. They're going to come in here at number 30. Nebraska, yes, they took a loss this week, but they also got a win over Purdue. And they looked fantastic in that game. They could not miss a 3. So, Nebraska, if they can play like that, man, yeah, they're definitely a top 35 team. But then they stunk it up right after. Of course, they had a hangover game. I mean, that tends to happen a lot in college basketball, but especially in the Big Ten. I feel like nobody's been consistent in the Big Ten ever in the history of the league, but Wisconsin's doing it so far this year, and that's kind of why they jumped in the top 10. If you can stay consistent in that league where pandemonium is always going on, yeah, you deserve to jump up. Number 32, Kansas State. I think this team is a top 35 team. They beat Villanova in a close game earlier in the year. They've been playing pretty good in Big 12 play so far. I think I said they got Baylor coming up on Tuesday or maybe Monday. That's going to be an awesome game. I can't wait for it. They were at 32. Number 33, like I just said, Kansas State did beat them in overtime. I feel like these two teams are kind of on the same level. I feel like they've both lost more games than they should have this year. And that's Kansas State and Villanova coming in here at 33. Again, Villanova's got a big game coming up against Marquette. I can't wait for that game as well. It's going to be awesome. Number 34, we do have New Mexico. Just got a big time win over San Diego State in the pit. Kind of talked about that already, but they have a ton of great guards on that team. They might have a couple of pros on that team. I'm talking for real. Look out for the Lobos. I think, there's so many great teams in the Mountain West. One of these teams in the Mountain West is going to go far in March, if not a couple of them. I'm very excited. I think New Mexico's built for it. We will definitely see and find out. And finally, 35, we do have Clemson dropping 10 spots from 25 to 35 this week. Yeah, they got a win over Boston College. We'll see if they can keep building on that. But other than that, they have been stinking it up in ACC play. And we'll see if they can turn it around. I'm going to keep them at 35 this week. But if they take another loss, they are out of here. But it sucks because before those like 2 or 3 losses in conference play, they were looking awesome. They were playing amazing. I was like, oh, this Clemson team is so good. Like, what is going on? Then they take a bunch of losses, and it's like, dang. But we'll see. Maybe they can bounce back and climb back into the top 25 or so. We will see our teams to watch this week. Princeton. Princeton still only has 1 loss this year to a very good St. Joseph's team on the road. They are playing fantastic. They are definitely on my teams to watch. Boise had a really good week this week, 2-0 in the Mountain West against a couple of very good teams. Appalachian State beat James Madison this week. App State also has a win over my number 5 team, Auburn, this year. App State, definitely a sleeper there in the Sun Belt. I think a lot of people thought it's James Madison's league to run away with, but crazy things happen in the Sun Belt 100%, and App State's looking very good this year. Nevada's another team in the Mountain West, like Boise. I said I had 2 teams in the Mountain West also in my teams to watch. Boise and Nevada, definitely looking pretty solid. Gonzaga dropping completely out of my Power 35. I think they were at like 28 or so last week. Took a loss to Santa Clara, Santa Clara is actually a pretty solid team this year on the road. What a win it was for them, but Gonzaga, they're dropping out of the Power 35 this week, but they are still on my teams to watch because I think they have a lot of talent on that team. Antoine Watson, Ryan Nimhard, very good team, very talented team. Mark Few is a legendary coach. They can definitely make their way back in. Indiana State, playing great basketball in the Missouri Valley Conference. Yes, they did take a loss to Drake, but Drake's a very good team. They bounce back from it. Let's see if they can keep it up. I think it's going to come down to Indiana State and Drake in the end on who will make the tourney. Whoever does come out of that league, whether it is Indiana State or Drake, maybe it'll be somebody else because it is going to be a 1-bid league. So whoever wins conference tourney. But I think it'll be between those 2 teams. Whoever comes out of there is going to be dangerous in March. And then we got Northwestern, who's just pretty inconsistent, but they have a lot of talent on their team. And you can kind of expect they're going to win 1, lose 1 each week in the Big Ten. That's just how Northwestern is, but they're on my teams to watch. If they go 2-0, they'll probably be in, and then they'll be out the next week. They'll be in and out. That's just how the team is going to go. So, that's going to do it for this week's Dannyology Power 35 rankings. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are on it down below. Who should be higher? Who should be lower? Who got snubbed? And subscribe for more college basketball content.